Research Shows Podcast.
This is your girl Dawn for Research Shows Podcast. Today is a special episode of My Two Cents. My guest today is Keith A. Washington. He is a Democrat for the 5th Congressional District in the state of Maryland. I said that correct?
You certainly did. I'm running for that office.
Yes. How you doing this evening?
Ms. Williams, I'm doing fine, doing well, highly favored and blessed. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
Okay. Well, listen.
All right. So, just so everybody understands, what made me reach out to Mr. Washington was I'm new to TikTok, but I happened to catch a viral post that was weird. So
very weird.
I don't jump to conclusions a lot of times because I've been in a position where stuff has happened and people automatically believe somebody else who may not be telling the truth. So I said, let me look this up, and his story is quite intriguing. So I'm gonna give you a chance to tell you your story and why is it different, and basically what this lady was throwing up. We'll talk about that later, but tell your unique story, please.
Listen. My story is probably everybody's story at one point in time in their life, right? When I was 13 years old, if I'm going to tell you my life story, then you'll get perspective of what I am and who I am and what I believe, right? And when I was 13 years old, my father ran off with a woman from New Orleans. That's what we said, right? And we ain't seen him since, right? So my mother and my 3 sisters and I were abandoned essentially, and I was the man of the house at 13, right? And so I worked in the morning throwing newspapers, and I worked in the evening at Pizza Hut, right? And when I was 15, my mother had a nervous breakdown because she couldn't take the stress and the strain anymore. She had a nervous breakdown, had to be committed. So I'm a big mental health advocate, period. And so my sisters went to live with relatives, my grandmother, aunts, uncles, and whatnot. And I found myself homeless as a 15-year-old. I was in the 10th grade, right? But I was still going to school. I was sleeping in an abandoned car and going to school. I was a little dirty kid, right? Ashamed and embarrassed. I didn't want my friends to know I was homeless. And I used to sneak into school at 10 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, rather, take a shower in the gym. And the free breakfast program, the free lunch program saved my life in school, right? Seriously. That program saved my life because I was hungry and unkept, and I learned to walk alone, right?
Okay.
It strengthened me. And so anyway, around my 12th grade year, I dropped out because I just couldn't take it anymore. Not because I was a bad kid, because I was just stressed and tired and trying to, make something out of my life, make my mother proud. Going to see her at the St. Asylum place, And one day I saw 2 friends of mine walking. I said, hey, where y'all going? They said, man, we going to join the Army. I said, hey, well, I'm going with you. I had never heard of the Army, never had anyone talk to me about the Army. I jumped up out of that abandoned car. I ran behind them. And 15 minutes later, I had signed up for the Army. I was 17 years old, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And the recruiter asked me, he said, do you have a high school diploma? I told him, yeah, but I didn't, right? I didn't. That's how desperate I was for an opportunity in my life and to make a change in my current position, the status. Long story short, at 18, they sent me to Korea. And while I was in Korea, when I got there, an 18-year-old kid, and the first sergeant, he said, Washington, you're a pretty smart guy. We looked at your GT score, and you scored pretty good. In fact, you scored in the highest 2% in the Army. And I was a high school dropout, right? So he said, we're going to send you to language school. So they sent me to language school to learn Korean, Hanguk Mao. So I spoke Korean fluently. I was 18 years old, 19 years old. And I used to interpret for my unit, 501st Military Intelligence Group. So I was and within a year's period, my life had changed dramatically. So I spent 2 years in Korea doing that, and I was sent back. My tour was over, and I was sent back to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and I was a 21-year-old E4 at that time, called Specialist 4, and I got my diploma, my GED. My GED while I was working in the Army, and I went on to college from there, night school. I got my degree. I became a military officer. Long story short, I retired a lieutenant colonel in the Army. From a homeless kid to retiring as a lieutenant colonel after 20 years in the Army, right?
Right.
And so I know about opportunities that, our people want and need opportunities. And, you can have ambition and drive and talent, but if you never have an opportunity in life, Maya Angelou called that a dream deferred.
Right.
And so, that's what I believe in, right? And so my story is not a unique story. And from that perspective, I've done other things in life. I was a deputy director of Homeland Security for Prince George's County. And I gave hundreds of jobs to our people and funded a lot of programs and ruffled a lot of feathers in doing that, right?
Right. I would imagine so.
Yeah, because historically African Americans had been left out. There's no equity and fairness in the hiring process and promotion process. There's no equity and fairness in terms of how people were treated on the job.
Right.
So I was going to change that because I didn't have any fear of that, or I wasn't afraid to make change, because in order to do something positive, you have to first actually believe in yourself and be courageous. Maya Angelou said, hey, the most important quality you can have is courage. And so it doesn't really take courage to do most things. Just do it. You'll get support. And even if you don't, you're doing what's right and what you believe in. And in the end, you'll be fine.
Right.
And so that's part of who I am and what I am. And there's 1,000 other things I can tell you about, but it take up all of your show.
No, that was quite intriguing because I did see that when I looked you up, and I was like, oh wow, he was in the military.
Like airborne paratrooper jumping out of planes in the middle of the night, and I was a officer commanding men and women and leading troops in America's misgiving conflicts, I call them. Conflicts that were based on lies and and people died and lost their life, unnecessarily.
Right.
And, that's what's wrong with this country, is that people in power have learned to manipulate the system.
Yes, absolutely.
For their own ends and for the ends of their benefactors.
How do you change that? Is that possible to even change that? Being in politics, like, how do you even change that? That's a big monster to go up against, because even my experience just doing it on the personal realm, fighting the local system is very difficult. It'll make you have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, I understand your concern, and it is possible. I believe it's possible, right? But
okay.
I believe you have to have men and women of strong character who are fearless, right? You're a lion, right? You can do it. You're going to take some losses, right? People going to vilify you unjustly and unnecessarily, but you lick your wounds and you keep going, and don't give up. If you don't fight, you can't win.
Yeah, well, I admire you, because what you done been through and what I seen in that documentary, I would have been out the country at this given point in time, because I'm like, he done dedicated himself to the military and law enforcement, and then you sitting there going through, my goodness, the whole story. Let me tell you something. When we first was listening to the story, because my husband heard of it on the news, and then when we was watching it earlier, and he was like, that don't sound right. That don't sound right. And then when you really look at how Georgetown laid out the whole, how you got to see evidence in front of you, and then it's like, oh, like, oh, you know what I'm saying? And then the fact that your wife was there, and then you had a little girl, and then the fact that you have a career based in supporting this system, and they in essence failed you, because that's crazy. I mean, they was in your house. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what happened. They was in your house, and then, if I'm not mistaken, the guy White, is that the one that still survived? The one that's last name is White?
Right, Robert White.
I have to read that. This was wow. This one, my husband was like, "Oh, never mind." the record. We talking from '89, unlawful entry, receiving stolen goods, attempted burglary, grand larceny, firearm charges, stolen goods, assault and battery. He even got a sexual misconduct charge, and it's so much. And it's like, how was he a contractor?
All that was hid from the jury. All of that was hid from the jury by the prosecutor.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm gonna say their names. Glenn Ivey and William Mumau and Joseph Wright. All that was, they lied about the whole case from top to bottom. If you go on the website that Georgetown put up, the documentary, and I challenge your viewers to go on there and see that Keith Washington is a 100% innocent man. On that website, Georgetown put up that documentary, oneinnocentman.org, the Keith Washington story. One innocent man, spelled ONE, oneinnocentman.org. And you will see what I fought against and who these people really are. And their real motivation in life is that they betrayed their ancestors because people you will never know fought, marched, died, went to jail for these people to go to law school and get accepted as black men, and they betrayed that, right? And they come into court doing other folks' bidding, and I met a lot of innocent people in prison, you know.
Of course.
Yeah, listen, America has a criminal justice system that's designed to destabilize the black community.
Yeah, period. Because it's based in financial gain. Like, I mean, once you put finances inside in my opinion, anything, you risk having somebody come in without integrity. So we can go on all day about the 13th Amendment and how that basically allegedly abolished slavery, except for involuntary servitude. So basically, it's a money-making system, and now it's shifting over to minorities, and not just minority. I'm talking about like Spanish, where you they doing the immigrants, and like how they was doing hysterectomies in Georgia, like 2020, and these women couldn't do anything about it. I'm just like, this is wow. Now, the reason your story stood out to me, where I was like, I had to say something, is because I experienced some horrible stuff in the Prince George's County judicial system, right in that same courthouse as you was in, with my son in foster care, my eldest, and a lie was told on me. And it was like they made a whole case of it. I didn't know nothing about the criminal justice system, so they was giving me a public defender. I looked crazy. It's no way nobody should believe me. You see what I'm saying? And they didn't. And they didn't. So after that happened, I know there was a reason why that happened to me, because when I hear other people say such happened, I'd be like, allegedly, because you don't know, you weren't there, and you're jumping on a bandwagon, and that mess is dangerous. And I'm so glad you touched on the ancestor thing. That just touched my soul, because this lady that's running against you, I was just like, dang, this is a black woman, and you're playing the same game that, excuse my language, that Master's playing with the let's throw everybody under the bus, as opposed to saying, well, what policies is he, you know what I'm saying? What is he trying to do for the community? And it's like automatically, I put on the page, I actually screenshot, I put on her TikTok. Excuse me, if you was in your house and somebody in another room they're not supposed to be in, and you're not gonna say nothing, because I carry weapons in my house. So it's no way somebody gonna be in my house in my child's room. It would. I totally understand. So to come from understanding from being a parent, I don't understand how anybody couldn't begin to understand that. But like you said, they hid that from the jury. That's, oh my God. I'm surprised you lost faith in the system.
Well, listen, it's more to it than that, actually. If you actually go on the website, you will see the names of 33 legal and law enforcement experts, judges, retired judges, college professors, law professors, former prosecutors. They all put their name on that site, and they all said, without independent of each other, that Keith Washington is 100% factually innocent, and that the entire case was falsified.
My God!
If you go on there, their names are on there. College law professors, federal judges, police chiefs, former prosecutors. They all say the same thing. They all reviewed it independently of each other, as well as Georgetown. So what happened is, look, a lie can get halfway around the world before the truth gets its boots on.
Yes.
And so people willing to believe, whatever they're told in our community. It doesn't matter how much work you've done in our community. If everybody wants to lie on you, people want to repeat that lie, especially with the media and the government. The media and the government have lied on Black people, and it's a common tactic. They vilify.
And it's effective. It's effective.
It's effective. Their first option is to always vilify a Black man or Black woman who's trying to do something to uplift Black people.
Yep. It shouldn't be effective, but it is, because we've assimilated to this society. What else we going to do? We are American. Regardless of however long our ancestors, however long ago that was, we have assimilated to it, and we view power or supremacy. It's like we want to mimic white supremacy. What brought us here? And it's like, I don't see how you can't see outside of that. Like, it's people I've dealt with in PG County, my landlord right now, and I don't care how this air, me fighting this Black man. When I'm telling people I'm fighting somebody, they automatically say, that was a white man you was fighting? No, it's a chocolate man. Like, how you acting like the slave owner? I don't understand. I know. It's like the more I live, I'm just like, what? And then even the previous owner, I even wrote a book. I got a whole book. The previous owner, this lady was in the board of economic development in PG County. I ain't even gonna say her name. And she was a nasty witch. And she was doing all types of stuff to me. Yes, she was. Oh Lord, I want to say her name so bad. But she was doing all types of stuff to me. And they was covering her, and everybody kept saying, that's a white woman. This a Black woman. like this is crazy to me how we have adopted white supremacy and don't even see it. Like that lady right now on TikTok, she's sitting there doing garnering for TikTok likes. Like what?
Right.
What?
Right. Well, I mean, listen. You saw the real video, right? What happened? You saw what happened.
I didn't see. She took it off.
I mean, the video that we sent you. Well, we need to send you the video then of what happened.
Okay. Please.
And I need you to. You probably want to post that.
Okay.
The video of what happened before I walked over to them and started recording.
Right.
They were walking around the parking lot screaming my name. Keith Washington's a murderer.
Of course.
So the voters were like, what? And so people came and got me, right? Because I had went inside the building. And then when I came back out, they were on a blowhorn, screaming it to voters and other people. And so, it was a little uncomfortable and kind of embarrassing. And I think that we should recognize those kind of tactics, right? Divide and conquer.
Oh, no, we don't recognize it, though. People don't recognize that.
Listen, I'm snapping at my opponent's heels, right? We're trying to beat him. He's been in office 41 years, Steny Hoyer, right? And this district in the Democratic Party is 85% African American, and we've never had Black representation in this office. 85%. Okay. So I'm the first man in 42 years that's challenging him as a Black, as a representative of the people, right? And the demographics change, and so we need to change our understanding of what's possible in our lives and let our children and grandchildren see people that look like them in positions of power and authority and unafraid and going to stand up for what's right and do what's right, and fight for the causes we believe in. And we don't need to go through anybody else when we're 85% of the population. Now, this guy's 83 years old, and he lives 90 miles from here because this district consists of 5 counties and 3 million people, right? Charles County, Anne Arundel County, Calvert County, St. Mary's, and half of Prince George's County.
So it's combined. It's like it ain't just PG.
No, this district is 5 counties and 3 million people. So now, my point is that our vote carries the Democratic primary one to victory. And Mr. Hoyer has been that person for 42 years. But he's in St. Mary's County, but all his votes come out of PG County. So that's the problem, that it is what people call this plantation mentality, right? And we got, listen, not talk back to me now. Listen, I'm telling you what it is. Right. Because listen, you can't go anywhere in America, right, and find, and I don't make it a racist, but I'm gonna say what it is. Listen, and find 80% of, say, white people, right? That's going to vote for a black candidate that live 90 miles from them.
Right.
In and then keep him in office for 42 years.
Right.
Representing them. That just doesn't happen, right? And so our issue, a friend of mine, Dr. Wilbur Wilson, he's written a book, and we're going and he's been fighting in Prince George's County for 50 years for fairness and equity and opportunity in this county for African Americans, right? And the book, I'm gonna post it on our website. It's called The Power That Never Came: The Story of Prince George's County for African Americans. And so that's significant when you think about that. The power that never came in Prince George's County, the story of African Americans.
Yeah, because go ahead. No. Yeah, because I hear these stories a lot, like what you're saying. Like, I grew up in PG County, so what you're saying resonates with me now. But all the stuff that even my mom had to fight for, with certain things, and in the school system, and with the the parents, and everything like that. Everything you're saying does resonate with me, and I do understand what you're saying. But the whole thing about that plantation mentality, how the heck we supposed to get past that? Because that's very difficult. You know what I'm saying? Like, how you convince people, like, what first of all, to not automatically jump and believe what somebody say, as opposed to just researching first, number one. And then number two, once you get in that position of power, to not go into that ridiculousness, you know what I'm saying, and mimic massa. I don't even know how to say it nice, but
listen, I think primarily, if it's in you, it's in you.
Okay.
If it ain't in you, you can see it. And we vote for people, and if it's in them to fight on your behalf.
That's
right?
true.
I'm a country boy, born, in the middle of nowhere, Texas, right? Been up here for almost 35 years in Prince George's County, right? Now, served up 22 years in the Army, 17 years on the police department, Deputy Director of Homeland Security, right? Homeless as a child, right? But I own a home, right? High school dropout, but I have college degrees, right? I was enlisted in the Army, but I retired as an officer, right? I've saved lives, and unfortunately, at some point in my life, I had to do the opposite, right? My point is, I've lived every life a person could live, and been fairly successful at everything I've ever done, right? Because of my tenacity and my belief, and I'm not afraid to do what's required in order to bring about a desired result for myself and my family, right? That I don't need anybody's. I'm not anybody's boy, right? Now we're grown men and we're grown women. We got to start acting like it. We're intelligent men and women. We got to start voting like it. We got to start voting our interests. We got to start voting for people that we know going to fight for us and speak about fighting for us. See, you never hear a politician, the people you vote for, speak like they say, I'm going to fight for you. No, they say, can I have your support? And then when they get in there, you know what that really means.
If you want
right?
to be a guest, collaborate, or comment, or anything like that, just go straight to the researchdepartment.com, click on Research Stones Podcast. And
black people in Europe,
from you.
They don't want to be accepted.
Have a wonderful day on
they want to be empowered.
Okay.
We here in America, we just want to be accepted, right, by the power structure.
I noticed that.
Big difference. And so my issue is that, if you ain't accepted us in 400 years, we'll make them think they're going to accept you tomorrow. And they're going to handpick some of you to be the front man, all right, a front woman. But, that's not for them. The masses still suffer. The masses of our people suffer in poverty. They're disenfranchised. They can't get loans from the Small Business Administration or from the local bank. They can't get student loans, home loans, car loans, business loans. You can't build wealth in America without getting access to capital, right? That's critical. As a congressman, I'm going to make sure you get access to federal grants, right? Federal grants you ain't got to pay back, right? That's what changes lives. As a congressman, I'm going to make sure our children get access to federal scholarships. The Department of Defense gives out nearly 30,000 scholarships a year, full ride academic 4-year scholarships. Huh? You don't hear these people talking about bringing that money back to you and them opportunities back to you.
Right.
You got a man representing 85% of black people for 42 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he give them, you know, a hot dog and some baked beans and some potato salad. And they feel obliged to vote for him, right?
Not the hot dogs, though. Look, not the hot dogs and the baked
bull
beans,
roast.
though.
He is an annual bull roast, and they pay $40 to get in to buy his hot dogs. And
wait, you were serious? You were being literal.
I mean, it's a skinny Hoya bull roast.
Wow.
And it's full of our people there. Even our elders, our people supposed to be right, the most wisest, experienced people in our community, out there eating hot dogs and hamburgers and skinning and grinning and laughing when ain't nothing funny and scratching where they don't itch. I'm gonna say what I mean to say.
Oh gosh.
And I'm telling you, our people listen, we got to win this thing Tuesday. You put this,
okay.
Miss Williams, we are going to fight for what we believe, right? Now we've done more and collected less than any group of people stand up in America today. No one can deny that. The first thing I'm gonna do when I get up there, I'm gonna sponsor legislation to impeach the 4 Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade, because when they testified under oath, they said that Roe v. Wade was settled law, right? And as soon as they got confirmed, as soon as they got that job, they went behind closed doors and they conspired and did overturn what they considered and said was settled law. Now that's called perjury under oath. That's called perjury. And so the Constitution allows me as a congressman to push legislation, to sponsor it, to impeach them, to have them removed as a federal judge. And so what you're going to see is a firestorm. As soon as I get up there, we ain't playing the same old game, right? That firestorm is going to consist of, hey, who's this black congressman from Prince George's County up there on Capitol Hill raising hell? And people are going to say, that's our Congressman Keith Washington. He's not playing around with injustice. Because I suffered it myself. 13 and a half years in prison as an innocent man. And everybody knew it. And people stood around scared to act on my behalf. And they're scared to act on your behalf. If they know it and they're scared to act on your behalf, why should they be in government?
And that's so true. And that goes hand in hand with what you were saying in regards to being accepted. A lot of people are scared of being rejected by their own community. I don't think it's just us. I watched that down here. I live in Calvert right now. So when I was, So when I was going up against these white supremacists, to be quite honest, I noticed that the poor, I live on the poor end near Solomon's, they was pressed to be accepted too. They didn't know how to fight their own white people in leadership. So they just surrendered and like, okay, well, he said we couldn't do this. And I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? You know, so I'm sitting there, got my nerve covered up, Muslim, black from PG County. Look, I had him under state and federal investigation and I was alone. Like it was just us in the household that was supporting each other. But I noticed how everybody, that's when you see everybody just go away. And they just, like what you just said, they knew what was going on was wrong with you, but they just was like, I can't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's not my problem. And sad to say, that's the American way. It's a cowardice way. I was lighting all these people up. I ain't had no respect for them. And the most disgusting part about it all was after it's all was said and done, and then federal and state forced their hand and made them, they was denying these children due process. They was punishing them before they even heard their side of the story, black and white. And by the time we got to the end of it, then when Master said it was okay, the superintendent, look, my husband laughing, the superintendent, then he gonna say it's okay. Then the black people in leadership that's up in the county, oh, well, let's sit down. What'd you say was wrong? Which I done already helped myself now. I mean, what in the world? But I learned, I didn't know that's government, local government, federal government, state government, and that's what you see. And I'm glad you honest and busting wide open like what you're saying.
Let me explain something to you. It's not the United States of America. Mm-hmm. It's the United Counties of America. You see, Maryland is a very small state. Maryland has 23 counties, right? Mm-hmm. Georgia has 169 counties. Mm-hmm. Texas has over 250 counties. So what happens in these individual counties? There's over 3,000 individual counties in America. That means there's over 3,000 individual courthouses in that county, right? That county courthouse wields tremendous power over the population, right? So you have 5 or 6 families typically run a county for in terms of legacy, wealth, opportunity, controlling the land issues, the banking issues, in over 3,000 counties in America, right? So the state is supposed to oversee the conduct of people at the county level. That rarely happens, especially when we're the victims of any misgivings by that local county government agency, whether it be the county sheriff or the county prosecutor or judges or what have you, right? And those banks, you can't build wealth in America without access to capital, right? And so take Prince George's County, for instance, $5 billion in tax revenue.
Right.
We have bankers lined up from Bank of America, Chevy Chase, Wells Fargo, MBNT, pick a bank. They lined up to get that $5 billion in deposit, in taxes deposited into their bank from this locally elected official. That's tremendous power in terms of creating wealth for people at the banks who own and run and operate the banks and who are stockholders, right?
Right.
So now they take your money and then they buy, stocks, bonds, real estate, gold, diamonds, oil, other commodities, zinc, uranium, cobalt, you name it, all over the world. And they make tremendous profits off that. But they only pay you 1% for having a savings account or a checking account. But they made 20% off your money. By law, they could take 90% of your deposit and invest it. They have to keep 10% of your deposits on hand. So if you got $10,000 in the bank, in the savings account, you really got a debit for $10,000. $9,000 went out the back door into the bank's investment portfolio. You see? Now, if you can come in, you can get your $10,000 back and they give it to you, fine. Now you got a account balance of zero. But they invest 90% of the money deposited into the bank. By law, they can invest it for their own profits, which causes the bank stocks to go up and a few other things. So people don't really know how government works, how private industry works, and how we've been as African Americans. You see, we're the ones who prop up the system in any business, no matter what you do, even with slavery. In any business, the number one cost of the business owner is labor costs.
Right.
So slavery went on for 250 some years. What was the labor cost? Zero. So if I work you for a week, you work for me, Ms. Williams. I work you for a week and I don't pay you. I made some money as the owner. Right. Now say I work you for a month and didn't pay you. I really got to keep some money. And you did all the work. Now say I didn't work you for a week or a month, but say I work you for 300 years and didn't pay you. I really created a bunch of wealth for myself. So now, and then finally say I don't work you, but I work 20 million people that look like you for 300 years. Think how much wealth I created for me and mine.
Right.
So the system historically has used African Americans to prop up the wealthiest country known to mankind ever. And we're still giving away our vote. Like my opponent for 42 years, he's sitting here, in a district that's in 85% of the African American vote comes out of the Democratic Party, gets elected. But he lives 90 miles away from this county, he's benefited tremendously, like many others have historically in this country, off of not just the vote of African Americans, but the naivete and them not being aware of who they really are as a people.
Right.
Everybody else votes their interests. We vote our feelings.
Right.
Big difference.
I agree.
And people,
you schooling me.
Well, I can tell you 1,000 things about this country and about life in general because I lived it and I experienced it firsthand, and I don't forget it. And some of it is displeasing and distressing, but it has to be said. And because we need to show examples of our children having opportunities and seeing people that look like them, right, in positions of power and authority, and being able to control their own destiny and not be beholden to anyone or anybody when you don't have to be. And so that's it. And I've Obviously, they're going to come after me and attack me, and they have. I've had 15 to 20 of my signs torn down all over Charles County, all over Prince George, all over, Anne Arundel and Calvert. The big signs, they torn down and cut down, right? And now I have a lady come up to me that I don't even know on a blowhorn walking around the parking lot, so it's not by coincidence. We know what the strategy is, the divide and conquer, right? But we're not going to play that game. We're not going to play that game. We're going to keep on message. And, throughout our history, a lot of us, Fannie Lou Hamer said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? Mm-hmm. And James Baldwin talked about the fire next time, right? And Shirley Chisholm said, I'm unbought and unbossed, right? And Malcolm said, by any means necessary. So we can go on and on about the history of our people and the struggles we've endured, but we're going to fight the good fight and stay above board. And, and when we win, it's going to be a great day for all of us.
Yes.
Because we're going to make significant change, and we're going to have transparency and accountability. Now, when people have transparency, then what you have is an informed electorate. And our people typically don't have transparency. They know our people like to gossip, right? So they spread rumors among our people to vilify us.
And it's effective.
It is proven to be very effective, but you have to say, hey, let me talk to the so-called reasonable, knowledgeable, informed voter, right? And then they say, okay, I can see through that. I've experienced it, because a lot of us experience it on our job. So the same thing you experienced on your job, somebody else experienced it. They got, passed over for promotions and discriminated against. They was the last hired and the first fired. And, they got to pay their bills. Gasoline, $5 a gallon, cost of living high. We try to get a livable wage passed. We try to make sure that people register to get these guns. They letting people get automatic weapons without background checks. And they talking about, Keith, you against, our right to carry firearms in the Second Amendment. I said, no, I'm for responsible gun ownership. I served up 20 years in the Army. I can tell you about gun ownership, brother. I can tell you that background checks save lives. Now, my opponent is against that, then him and I disagree on that issue, right? So the voters should decide. The voters say, well, Keith, we agree with you, right? Because in 1968, Congress passed a federal law requiring all car manufacturers to install seat belts in the cars, because through science and data, they found that saved lives, right? Save lives through science and data. Well, background checks save lives, because if a person has some kind of mental health issue, or they're threatening people online, they're gonna go shoot up a school or a mosque or the Walmart, and they can walk into a gun show and buy 5 or 10 or 20 guns and kill 10 people in 5 seconds. Those semi-automatic weapons.
Yeah, like so the one recently, whoever that was, I can't think of.
Uvalde.
No, that's Uvalde. It was another one. The guy who the father's in trouble now because he just, I think it was a 4th of July. That one. That one. Because Uvalde was Texas, but this 4th of July one.
You had Buffalo, New York. You had Highland Park. You had many, many mass shootings, right? And people say, well, we don't want to talk about, background checks now. It's not the time for that. Well, that's a talking point. And so another one will happen, and another one will happen, and another one will happen, right? And so, there's a lot of issues at the federal level that we can change, and you can't listen. You can't change something unless you first do something.
Right, and everybody, a lot of people gonna go against you initially anyway. Just like when you look at documentaries on a lot of people, like, for example, Martin Luther King, where he was viewed upon as being a terrorist. And then now it's like, oh, look at all the wonderful things he's done now. Let's talk
about that. Let's talk about that. Listen. If you looked at Dr. King as a terrorist, think about how King George looked at George Washington and the people who fought against England, right, to establish this country. Was George Washington a terrorist? Huh?
Yeah, I think so.
John Adams. That's my point. My point is, from King George's point of view, George Washington was a terrorist fighting against his army, the Redcoats, and this American colony that he had established through, means that we now know to have been barbaric and all but destroyed the Native American population, right? All but destroyed, So, I mean, clearly, they think might makes right, right? And so now, we think that the rule of law should be obeyed and followed. And when they violate the rule of law, sometimes there's rarely consequences. And you see it all the time. You see it all the time. And as a man who spent his life, jumping out of airplanes, hey, I got a different point of view.
Right. Especially, and I did want to mention this too, like when I was watching the documentary, if I'm not mistaken, that was the reason why Georgetown ended up adopting it. It had to do a lot with your wife that kept fighting while you was in jail. Right. That's beautiful. I'm telling you, when I saw that, I said, man, look, I felt like myself, because that gonna show me like, because when it was a quote, I even wrote that down. When your daughter said something and your wife your daughter said, we told the truth and dad still didn't come home. So it's like, that gotta be hard to explain that to a child, because it goes in contrast to what we learn in the public school system. Oh, America's fair, America's just, America's better than all these other countries, and we're not a third world nation. But in essence, she watched somebody who had a wonderful background, because you sat there, was in the military, you served your country, and then you told the truth, and then it's like the country was like, F you, and that, to have a wife that still was like, nah, we're gonna keep going. That's beautiful.
My wife is our family backbone. I'm just a face, right? But it is my wife, right? And her courage and her tenacity, and that she was born for any fight you bring her way. And she is not gonna give up, and what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And she gonna let you know, and she ain't gonna take one step backwards. And my wife.
Question too. Go ahead.
No, I said my wife's the best thing ever happened to me.
Oh yeah, I could tell. Because you could just tell as soon as your daughter started talking. I was like, oh, she's just sweet as pie. I was like, oh my gosh, like, beautiful family. My question is, because we were talking about laws in regards to how Maryland, does it not have a self-defense law? Like, that's something I learned when I was in the handgun class, to where these guys who are gun toting down here, honey, they was like, they're trying to infringe on our rights and this and that. They said if you ever shoot an intruder, they already had it lined up to where we had like a thing where we could call a lawyer and all that. And I'm like, what is it with self-defense in Maryland, and can you change that, or does it have to be, is that a state thing, or is that federal? Explain it to somebody who's like not really knowing, like me. What will I do if somebody comes to my house, I shoot them in self-defense because they, let's say, is attacking my husband, or whatever? I could be facing what you went through.
Yeah. The law is subjective, right? You can have the same scenario happen in Calvert County, and a homeowner not going to be prosecuted.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Especially that homeowner is white. Right?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? The law is subjective. Now, the Supreme Court has what's called the Castle Doctrine, meaning in your house as a homeowner, you have no duty to retreat, that you can stand and fight in your house and you have not violated any law. Now, the lawyer that you hire is supposed to present that as part of his oath to provide a vigorous defense of you if it comes to that. My lawyer did not. Vincent Cohen, that's his name, black lawyer out of DC, Vincent Cohen. I would tell anybody not to fool with him, right?
Wow.
I would tell you that, because he did not do what he was supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And he lost a winnable case when we had all the evidence.
Right.
And in fact, the prosecutors were hiding evidence and lying about evidence, and he was aware of it. Or the law says he should have been aware of it. But it's clear that if you read all the evidence on the website, for him not to be aware of that, that means he didn't do his job as a lawyer. Now
Wow.
the castle doctrine is pretty simple. Read it, Google it. Google the castle doctrine, how it reads. That as a homeowner, you don't have a duty to retreat. And any
Right.
man or woman has a right to self-defense, right? A jury, when that is properly presented to a jury of your peers, so-called peers, then common sense and reasonable doubt should be the first thing that pops to their mind. Because wouldn't you do the same thing in your house?
Right.
So why are we even here charging this man with crime in his own house against complete strangers, right? Who
Right.
did not work, who did not work. If you read the documents on that on the website that Georgetown put up, you will find that those guys did not work for the moving company. Robert White, specifically, a registered sex offender that was on cocaine when he entered my home, right? Had been arrested over 25 times.
Wow.
You just named off his convictions. You know, they lied about all of that. Now, my lawyer was supposed to fight vigorously and bring that out, right?
And didn't.
And he, you know, he did a terrible job. Let me say that. Oh, I would not have gone to prison.
Yeah.
The evidence speaks for itself, right?
And I said that. I said that.
And so now the newspaper, because they say, well, Keith Washington been fighting a long time, you know, to bring about fairness and equity in this county. And now we think, you know, that we could railroad him, you know, on this mishap that happened in his home. And so that's exactly what happened. And so, but people who can read can go to this website right now, and I challenge you to post it. Go ahead and post it on your TikTok. You know, the Keith Washington story, how this man had 13 and a half years of his life stolen. And
it's no question, sir. I will. It's no question. Tonight, you hear me? Tonight, I'm sitting there writing down the time periods I'm about to clip out and all that. Because let me tell you something. Like I said, I went through some stuff with the court system, and my lawyer, because my husband helped me in regards to understanding how to write motions and all different kind of stuff.
Right.
I was presenting the case law. I was writing the motions. I didn't give a F that I hired her or not. It was, excuse me, and you just show up. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't trust her, because it was like she kept telling me to settle. Now, I was in a custody case with a third-party grandparents, and I kept saying, why was she telling me to settle as if I'm incompetent? I got remarried, had a whole other child, but like my husband said, they work together. They go to lunch together. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You preaching to the choir. And I would challenge you to do one more thing. Look, the state's attorney, the current state's attorney, Aisha Braveboy, she has the case on her desk with the same facts that you and I know and everybody else knows, right? And so she's sitting on it. And so I would challenge the people who listen to your podcast to call her office and say, why haven't you taken action in the Keith Washington case?
Say her name again. Say it one more time.
Aisha Braveboy, Braveboy. She's a state's attorney for Prince George's County. Okay. And call her office, bombard her office, and say, why haven't you taken action in this case as a Black woman who's duly elected to do justice?
Well, we already know why.
Well, I mean,
but I will be writing up. Look, I'll give you my word, because I write me some emails, honey. I sure will. Look, I had a state's attorney on the phone with me when I was fighting these psychos down here. It was so hilarious. My client, Debbie, I'm on the phone. I'm a hairdresser. So I'm on the phone talking to this lady, and she's sitting there like crying. I don't even know her. She's talking about, you know, what she going through with the white supremacists that she got to work for. Here go my client. Who was that on the phone? Because this is my time. I swear to God, it was just like that. It forced me to hang up on this state's attorney in Calvert County, you know, so I know it's not my fault that you weak. You see what I'm saying? I don't care. That's just what it is. You weak and you're cowardly and you're scared of being turned against because you actually care what everybody think when you come to work every day. And I get you got to be a strong person to walk into a room and know can't nobody stand you and still be like, I don't care. That takes a lot. But I think you just got to have experiences to get to that point. And, you know, I'm there. That's why I was like, yeah, I'm about to. I totally understand what you're saying, sir. Believe me.
Look, our people, specifically African-American people, right? We're used to being sheep. and then the wolf comes along and devours us at will. I'm a sheepdog. I'm not scared of the wolf, right? So I'll challenge the wolf anywhere I find him and see him. And so to protect the people and their interests and make sure they have, as the Constitution said, life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness.
And the pursuit of happiness. Yes.
So
Oh my
whatever
goodness.
your happiness is, right? We're going to make sure that you and your family can pursue it how you want to, free from hurt, harm, or danger, right? And so I want to thank you, Miss Williams, for having me. I do.
I appreciate you coming on. This made my whole year, because the fact that you even called me back, I said, oh my God, Umar, he called me back. I cannot believe this. I feel so honored, because I really love this. So before we exit out, I want you to say your website one more time. Okay. So where everybody can find your story and everything else, and then we'll exit out.
Okay, the website is oneinnocentman.org. ONEINNOCENTMAN. oneinnocentman.org. The Keith Washington story, right? About how he was railroaded into prison in Prince George's County for 13 and a half years. And now he's out running for Congress. And he plans on winning. And he plans on winning. And all of us, right? Not some of us, all of us gonna enjoy and get opportunities to fight for what we believe. And all you gotta do is call me and say, Keith, I got a problem. I'm gonna come running. And if you don't call me, it's your fault.
All right, with that, everybody, please do not forget, you can catch more episodes on just about all streaming platforms by going straight to the research departments with an S.com. Don't forget, 12 p.m. daily, we have My 2 Cents with technology for seniors. 4 p.m. Eastern is for the entrepreneurs, and 6 a.m. Mondays is the morning crew with everybody. So don't forget, if you want to collaborate, if you want to make a comment about this episode or any episode, go straight to that website, like I said. And everybody have a wonderful day on purpose.